Good evening, everyone. The hour being 7:07 p.m. on Monday, March 22nd, 2023. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, though, I'd ask Mr. Smith, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're joined this evening by Katie Gargano, our city clerk and tax collector. And as our clerk this evening, I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Susie?
Counselor Susie's here. Here.
Counselor Littman?
I'm here as well.
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Felch?
And here.
Mayor Hosmer?
Here. We're also joined this evening by City Manager Kirk Biotti, as well as Finance Director Glenn Smith. Moving along on our agenda, I move to item number 7, which is acceptance of minutes, the regular City Council meeting of May 8th, 2023. Minutes of the regular City Council meeting of May 8th were distributed to the City Council on May 18th. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item number 9 on our agenda this evening is citizen comments for matters not on the agenda. If you can step right up. You don't even have to raise your hand. Step right up. Mr. Stamps. Anyway, for all of you, if you have anything you'd like to speak to that's not on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and there's no paper in my hand, so this is going to be short. I'm here representing the Laconia Human Relations Committee. We got a chance to review your proposed, the work that you did on the proposed flag policy, and we think it's really great. Not offering any changes or anything like that. But when we saw that it was going to take a 30-day application period, I thought, well, Pride Month will have already started by the time we even got around to file the paperwork. So my request is simple, that you would do a once on doing the Pride flag for this June. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Anyone else with comments? Come on up. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Andrew Johnson. I live at 199 Country Club. And I'm just trying to find the status of what's going on with 187.
With excuse me, what?
187, the neighboring property of mine.
187 Country Club Road, we've been dealing with the issue for a little while. This is one of the ones when I talked about last week in the planning that we're trying to cut down on the amount of time it takes to get some of these properties taken care of. We have done all of our due diligence that we're required to do by law for notifying the owners, which it's owned by a bank now, and then that transferred as well. So it gets a little bit confusing. We now have our lawyers working on what we need to do to go through the court system to require a cleanup. It's like I just talked to Mr. Johnson. It's not the best answer, but it's where we stand right now. And again, that's something that we're working with our law firm on trying to be able to cut down some of this time frame to get to the end point a little bit faster.
Is this the house that looks like everything in the house was emptied out the
Yes,
back door and
yes,
left on the lawn?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And how long has it been like that?
Quite a while. A couple of years.
Yeah,
A couple of years.
They used to get in a fight, and the girlfriend's belongings would get thrown out the back door.
This looks like literally the kitchen sinks in the backyard.
There's no wiring, there's no plumbing.
Does anyone live there?
No.
So this building, like you said, it would be on and off, get worse and better. Probably not better, but it would get worse at times. The building is posted uninhabitable. We've done that. It was after that, I believe, that it actually kind of escalated.
Mm-hmm.
So that escalation hasn't been a real long time, but it's still been long enough, and we are trying to work on getting this done.
So it's a condemned property?
Yes.
Taxes paid?
I would believe they are. Yeah. I don't think we had. Yeah. Yeah. The bank is. Yeah.
But I mean, I constantly calling the police, the fire department, code, you name it. I mean, it's not just me, it's all the abutters. And I mean, this has been going on for couple of years,
Too long.
yeah. So it's not like nobody was aware of it.
Okay. It seems to be a high priority of the city, new city manager right now, and,
We're trying to get it done.
Yeah.
We are.
Just frustrating, because now we're coming into summer and, you know, you want to work outside and do outside things, entertain, you got to look at that.
okay, yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing that this evening. Anyone else? Okay. Like to move on to agenda item number 13, which is public hearings. Agenda item number 13A is a public hearing on ordinance 2023-205-2, naming rights and procedures for city-owned property. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the May 10th, 2023 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:13 PM. And if anyone would like to speak to this, now would be the appropriate time. It kills me to open the public hearing for anything and close it the same minute that I opened it. Just does. So I'd like to close this public hearing at 7:14 PM with no public input. Item number 13B. It's a public hearing on the Elm Street School walking path. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the May 10th, 2023 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. This public hearing is being held to gather public input and to present the plans for the walking path. There is no council action anticipated at this meeting. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:14 PM, and if you'd like to speak to this issue, now would be the appropriate time.
Question, is that for all citizens or just people who are?
All citizens, it's public input portion, so if you'd like to speak to it, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is John Kelly. I don't know, do you need my address and stuff? I apologize.
Sure, that'd be fine.
Okay, 205 Washington Street.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
I had a number of concerns with this. Mainly, we didn't get input before they started surveying and buying the property. I live on the corner of what would become a stopped bumper-to-bumper parking lot. They tried this before a year or so ago, and what ended up happening is we also needed to have police there to ticket people constantly because they were blocking all access to our driveways. It's a small road, 1.5 cars. So we have that as a concern. The other is I'm confused about why they're doing this on our street versus the huge back parking or back area of the school property. They can go to Hickory Sticks Lane. They seem to own the property out to there, and there's already a clearing. So I don't know why they can't do that versus backing up our street and offsetting their traffic jams on Elm Street onto a single street. They're also trying to turn our road into a one-way road, which would mean if somebody wants to go to their house, they instead have to drive around and then wait in traffic to get to their own home. We also have issues with safety concerns, as most people on Washington Street have at some point or another had police at their house for theft, for other issues. This is introducing people just randomly walking through from unknown places in large numbers of unknown vehicles that get to stop and stare at our yards to find out maybe they want something. Who knows? I mean, even shortly after we moved in, we had stuff stolen from us. So that's a concern. But that was, I saw on an email or a paper they got that the consequences they stated were there was no more backed up traffic on Elm Street, but because we were stop and go, I had to wait 45 minutes to get to my own home when they had this traffic happening last time. And then I had issues of I couldn't get into my driveway because I tried to pull around and people would block as if I was trying to cut in front of them, so I couldn't even get into my home. So yeah, we had that, and issues with we have to have police there so that we can ensure that we can get to our homes. But they have a Levitt Park. I don't know if there's just going to be a few people for after school. Can they not just take a bus to Levitt Park and skip the entire walking path? And that seems to make more sense to me than buying property, having it redistricted, having it sectioned off and so forth to dedicate to the school. Since our taxes did just get increased, I'd like to see that money used for something else than buying a strip of property and building a bus stop in my corner of my street, specifically my yard. So, that'd be it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelly. Anyone else in the audience like to speak to this matter? If you would, just step right up. Welcome.
Sorry, I'll come closer. I own one of the properties in that picture. I
So I'm
guess-
sorry, could you introduce yourself? And
Sure, Jessica Sudica, 220 Washington Street.
Thank you.
We've been complaining about our road because it's very unsafe as it is. There's a grading issue, there's potholes, when we walk out onto that road, you're just walking and your shoes behind you because it got stuck in the mud. So I would like to know if the plans include paving Washington Road right there, right in front of my house and another neighbor's house. So that would be my first question. Also, my question is, are people going to be driving down the road, that little strip there, because it's a dead-end street? What's going to be done to keep people from driving down the street and turning around in our yards? Of course, my issue too is privacy and, having our things on display while people are walking by. If a kid's injured on my property because they get away from the line, whose responsibility is that? Is it mine? Is it my homeowner's insurance, my umbrella policy, that kind of thing? So just generally that. Do you have any other questions? Okay, all right, that's it for now.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak to this matter? Come right up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Thomas Stata, resident of Laconia, and I'm opposed to the proposed actions of in accordance with the picture. I don't understand how this came about to be the children when the problem was traffic. And the traffic was because of parents taking their child to school. I happen to be one of those people. Not my daughter, but my great-great-granddaughter. And tell you the truth, I think this is a bad deal. And I'm old enough, and I think Bruce Cheney would know, because of his time in the police department, that, let's see, tried to get my act together, but I got tied up and didn't. Other than Elm Street, there's another school that has the same problem. And back in the day, the council closed the road to the school. And the next council came along and erased "Do Not Enter." And then when the next council came on, they put the sign back up. Shortly after that, I happened to be working in Massachusetts, and I made a turn, and I saw a sign that said, "Do not enter when the blinking light is blinking." In our case, the road is closed 24/7. No one can go down. Now, there's some people at the time welcomed that, and others didn't. And the reason was that the businesses in the industrial park were coming out of work at 3 o'clock, and they didn't want to go to the lights of Oak Street, and it became a big issue regarding that fact. In other words, everybody could have changed their time, but the factories didn't want to do that. In this case, it's basically the same situation. For 2 years, I've delivered children in the morning. Never had a traffic problem. And when it comes evening to pick them up, it was a nightmare. I communicated that to a counselor and others. And how did it become the children have to suffer? Because as that woman spoke, there's liabilities there. And it's not a child's problem, it's a traffic problem. Now, if I leave and go towards Route 106, and I want to make a left turn, I can't make that left turn, because there's a sign that says the people coming down from Meredith Center Road have the power. And once they've decided what they're going to do, take a left turn, take a right turn, come down Elm Street, that doesn't allow me to make a left turn where I want to go. So why can't there be a sign going towards Lakeport that says the same thing? If the school's in session, then you can't pass from the Meredith Center Road or off of 106. I think this is a knee-jerk reaction. City councilors aren't perfect. And I have a question. Has anybody at the dais here ever contacted the Department of Education of the state of New Hampshire, schools, safety, preparedness task force? Now, I have talked to the state, and they're very willing to get involved and help and find a better way or agree. My hope is don't agree. And if I had a city councilor here, mine, my ward, I'd be telling him to vote no on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tardif. I
you.
appreciate your input. We all do this evening.
If you're interested, I saved a date, how to reach them.
You can maybe pass it along to the city manager, and he can disseminate that. You drop it off right over there, and
I can do it that way.
that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Oh, by the way, Elm Street hasn't had a dividing double yellow line for months and months. And especially without a double yellow line in a school zone, from my experience, if I leave after dropping off my great-great-granddaughter, if I am not careful, somebody is going to pass all the way back from, say, 20 cars. And they're not looking, I don't know who they are, but they want to get to Lakeport. Or maybe they want to get to maybe they're all people going to work. So like I say, I think instead of what the action is pending with the public hearing does not pass, does not take place, and the signage can be the answer. If it's flashing, you can't come in. What that's gonna do is only cause people to go through Lakeport Square and head to school.
Thank you again. We appreciate your input this evening, Mr. Tardif.
Yeah.
Anyone else looking to comment on agenda item number 13B, Elm Street School Walking Path? Come on up.
I am really bad at this.
I bet you're better than you think.
Yeah. I'm Michelle Normandin. I live at 240 Washington Street.
Welcome.
We moved to that place because it was on a dead-end road, peaceful, quiet. It's, won't be peaceful and quiet anymore. And I know before, when we did have this, it blocks everybody's driveways. They just keep the line going and everybody's driveways get blocked. And at that time, I just had one job, so it wasn't as important to get, well, it was important to get home, but not as important to get home. But now I have two jobs, so it's to wait a half an hour or longer to get to your house. It's very inconvenient.
Sounds like it adds extra half hour to an already long day.
Correct. It just adds more stress to you.
Sure.
I forget what else I was gonna say. And then it's a long walk for the kids too. The ticks are horrible. And then during the winter time, a lot of kids don't have the proper clothing, coats, boots. So it's a long walk for them as well. So just not for my complaining and for something for them too. I don't know. That's it, I guess.
Thank you very much, Ms. Normandin.
I'll make this short and sweet. Trish Poliquin. I am a teacher at Elm Street School of the proposed plan here before us.
Okay.
So, short and sweet. Is there a traffic concern? Most definitely. There are days, rainy days, snowy days. Parents are out there blocking the street all the way down Elm Street. We've told them many times, if you just wait another 10 minutes and come on back, I am on that duty, morning and the afternoon, calling those cars that are coming through that line. So I see what's out there, and I know there's a concern. Definite traffic pattern issue out there. However, I feel like there's a more proactive thing to do, that being educating our parents. We all comment when we go on duty, wouldn't that be great to sit out there for 10 or 15 minutes on our phones instead of running to the grocery store, running a couple errands? So I really feel that educating our parents is a lot safer and better than spending the money. Safety concerns that were brought up, definitely a concern. We walked down to those neighborhoods during COVID when we were not allowed to wait with all of those students in the building. It was horrible, walking in the rain. Students are not dressed, they don't have the appropriate clothing. Shelter or no shelter, it really doesn't matter. Our students are not prepared to be out there. So it is going to be a logistical nightmare personally. We are short-staffed. Many times we have substitutes or no substitutes. So where we're gonna find the bodies to walk those children, 60, 70 plus, a quarter, however far away that is, hundreds of feet. I personally am not looking forward to that being my duty, and doing that every day after school, if not before school as well. So I'm hoping that City Council and hopefully working with Superintendent Tucker and other members, we can come up with a better solution. Thank you.
I think we might need a young engineer to work on this. Do you have any ideas?
I possibly could propose a young engineer for you, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not for me, no. Anyone else looking to speak to this matter? Thank you to everyone who spoke up, and I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:32 PM. I don't know if, I think we said no. Yeah, okay. Might just, no council action.
reinforce that, people might be staying.
Counselor Lippman raises a good point. As I indicated, there is no council action anticipated at this meeting on this matter. So, just wanted you to be aware of that.
If you're staying for a vote, there's not going to be one on this tonight.
Right. Moving along to agenda item number 14, that is the mayor's report. I will try to be relatively brief. The big issue we've been working on the past couple of weeks, as many people know, is the encampment on Spruce Street, which has grown in size, and certainly some of the overflow was very disconcerting to the folks who lived in the neighborhood surrounding. We had indicated at the last meeting we were going to begin the process of breaking up the camp and cleaning up the area. Over the past few days, actually over the past couple of weeks since then, we've had a number of meetings with Chief Canfield, Officer Adams, City Manager Biotti. We had a number of meetings with some of our outreach folks at Navigating Recovery, the CAP agency, as well as Lakes Region Mental Health Center, as we planned for this. Though I have not been to Spruce Street today, as I understand, the dumpster was dropped off very early this morning. According to the uniformed officers who have gone through the area and a couple times today, most of the people have vacated the area. Over the next week or so, there will be a more formal process to not only clean the debris and some of the materials that have been left behind, but also if there are any people remaining there, will be encouraged to move on from the public property. This solves the issue as far as the wooded area at the end of Spruce Street. It doesn't solve the issue of what becomes of the people who are experiencing homelessness. The task force, the Mayor's Housing Task Force, has continued to meet. We are currently discussing a number of options to address this situation in the city. There has been terrific input from a number of sectors. I see Representative Bogert here this evening, who's a member of the task force, and people have been putting the time in and offering their ideas and their thoughts, and we're moving along nicely, and I greatly appreciate everyone who's been participating. But this is a long-term endeavor on behalf of the city and the residents of the city. So I would like to let people know in the surrounding streets at Spruce Street, we certainly heard you loud and clear 2 weeks ago, and we've taken some affirmative steps to try to address this. Chief Canfield has indicated that in displacing people from this camp, we may see some additional activity in other areas throughout the city that he intends to take a proactive approach to with his department and monitoring these areas. So our citizens can feel safe, comfortable, enjoy the beautiful things, including the Wow Trail and Rotary Park and Main Street and Lakeport and so on. But I would encourage folks in the city to have patience as we try to address this very complex problem that is not easily solved, and it will continue to be a work in progress. So thank you to the city manager and certainly Chief Canfield, Chief Joubert, and all the folks that have been involved in this and trying to make this go smoothly. I think on a more positive note is that we saw what makes this city great over the course of the weekend, in that we had the New England Coffee Festival here, and really congratulations to Ben Bullerwell and Karen Bassett and their team at Wayfair and the first-class event that they put on and they host here in the city. Also, thank you to the Belknap Mill and the use of their grounds as well as the third floor, Rotary Park for music. You know, it was one of those special times. I'd like to kid that Laconia knows how to throw a party pretty darn well. and we showed it this weekend. I heard from a number of people. They were very pleased in their interactions with the city, in particular DPW, and how attentive they were to the needs of those putting this event on. So thank you, and you know, we certainly let people know when things don't go well. We want to make sure to share the compliments to all of you and the appreciation for the work that you've all done. As I understand it, they will be back next year, which is great. So I look forward to having another party on, block party on Canal Street with everyone. On Saturday night, we also had a great event at the Colonial Theater, and how great it is to see 300 to 400 people show up on a Saturday night at the Colonial Theater in May and enjoy local talent and singing duets. It was just one of those times that it felt like a very special community and a reminder of the investment in the Colonial Theater works. It not only pulls people together and creates a greater sense of community, but certainly if anyone had an opportunity to go out to some of the restaurants locally around the Main Street area, you could see leading up to that event, they were busy. And that was the anticipated impact when you all made a decision to invest in that theater. So thinking of Ed Engler quite a bit as well, because this is the type of stuff that I know he anticipated. So his spirit remains very strong in that theater. That's all I have this evening on the mayor's report. And I'd like to move on to item number 16, which is council comments. You can't help yourself, can you, Councilor Cheney? We ought to rename this. Councilor Cheney comments.
No, sir, I would like to wait for the city engineer to step up. I do have one or two questions for him. Other than that,
Okay,
I want to echo what you just said and hurry this along.
thank you. There are no council comments this evening. Do we have any committee reports this evening? Seeing none, how about liaison reports? Seeing none. Item number 19 on our agenda is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. If there's a current agenda item that you'd like to speak to, now would be the appropriate time. Step right up. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 20, which is the city manager's report. Turn it over to City Manager Kirk Biotti.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First document you have in your packet is the projects update. We have seen the installation of the water main on Weirs Boulevard is nearing its completion. They're hoping to have everything wrapped up by Memorial Day. Just to reiterate something that Superintendent Crawford said, the water main break that they worked on all weekend was not related to this project. It was separate of that project. When the final paving and all that gets worked on, they will continue the communications plan. I was up in that area today, and they had 3 different spots on the road that were being stopped, and the flaggers were doing a really good job and keeping traffic moving. It was, they did a nice job with that. Academy Street Bridge and Centenary Ave Bridge, I'm not gonna discuss too much. Those are next year and 2-year out projects. Turn to page 1 that you'll see being worked on right now is the Mesa Street Bridge. They've started loading up some of their equipment today. They're working on the deck project to fix any problems with the deck. That will be about a 5-month project. It will not be affecting anything through Motorcycle Week. So that'll be open completely for Motorcycle Week, and it will not have any anticipated any full lane closures. It'll be a 1-lane closure, so they'll continue with alternating traffic through that. As you saw, they had message boards up, so they were starting to notify people who travel on that route normally, and they've dealt with emergency services and the buses as well. Something you haven't seen yet, that'll be coming forward, but was added to this. There was a grant application put in. We put money into the pedestrian bridge behind City Hall here every year as repairs. Our assistant director at DPW threw out a grant application through Congressman Pappas', and it appears it's going to get funded. It's not finalized yet, but it did well. It'll be coming forward for you for approval and all that, but we're going to add to this. I just wanted to mention it on there. Weirs Boulevard, they're doing work down by Langley Cove. and they're gonna be doing some extra boring. The project won't be until at least next year, if not later, but they wanna do some borings so they can look at the, soil and what they have underneath underneath the ground, so they can decide how the project's gonna move forward. The Elm Street Transportation Alternative Project, which is gonna add the, above Franklin Street, past the school, sidewalks and a multi-use trail, is moving forward. They still don't have a final time set, but HEB Engineering is working on the final plans at this time. The Weirs TIF, all the TIFs will be added into, as they always are, into the budget presentation as we move forward through finance. The Weirs district will talk about what's included in that, but they've just recently met, and they're gonna wanna come forward and have some conversations with you about some projects that they're doing and what they're looking for. So we'll be saying it, and they may be coming forward as well. No big changes, Winnipesaukee River Basin, we've talked a lot about that. The Northern Lakeport Sewage Project continues to stay on track. Park, the contractor up there, has been, will be notifying all the owners of any driveway changes, and the road closures have tried to be advertised as much as they can, so we can keep the public advised of what's going on, so they're not surprised. Last page, we're still working with the Weirs Restoration Project. DES and our Parks Department are working to come up with a game plan on that and decide how we can move forward as best we can. I know one of the things it says in there is that they're looking at a potential jetty as one of the options, and the state DES is not in favor of that, as I'm sure that was spoken to at the Weirs TIF meeting. So it's not something that they would buy into or support. So our Parks Department is working with them. The Native American sculpture is still being painted, but it should be nearing its completion pretty soon. So we should have an update on that very soon for when the install is gonna take place. Any questions on any of that? I know I moved relatively quickly, and I do have Wes here if we need to.
You have a question?
No, I have just a comment. Kurt, would you just kindly keep me in the loop on Academy Street Bridge?
Yes, yep.
Because,
We still got some time ahead of us, but absolutely will.
well, having been involved with the Court Street Bridge, I'd like to be, seeing it's in my ward.
And I think you've seen, one of the things that we added to the projects update is a communications
Yeah.
plan, and that was on purpose, so.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, so we can get the word out, but two, so for exactly these reasons, you say, hey, this looks good for a communications plan, but you forgot X, or we really wish you'd do this, and we can add that in there. So something we're trying to get better at, and that was one of our ways that we tried to get better.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Lippman.
I guess in terms of assessing the projects, I think when we're doing it, we need to look at the citizens' impact, right, in terms of, but also the business impact and what the city impact is in terms of balancing those as favorably as we can. I think we got out of balance in a couple projects, and I think that's, you know, in terms of the communication plan, it's one thing to communicate, but if it's the wrong thing to communicate, that's not good either. So,
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we talked about at the department head level was exactly that. When you build your communications plan, that may trigger you to think, are we hitting all the key areas that we need to hit? So that's what we're trying to make sure we get ahead of and not get behind on.
yeah, sometimes it makes, the effect that we can have on commerce can be more than the savings in the project.
Yep, oh, absolutely, thank you. On the monthly economic report, not a lot to report. Our unemployment rate is little higher than around us, but right at what the state level is. And on the second page, again, as I've said for coming up on almost a year now, the CPI number continues to fall. It only fell 0.1%, but it is going down. It's not uncommon at this time of year to see a little spike during the summer going up. But the trend is that it is coming down as of right now, and, you know, annualizing out, we can't really predict what it's gonna look like at the end of the year, but we certainly can see that it's, going in the direction of a lot less than what we saw this year.
City Manager, I think there's a lot to report to the extent that our unemployment in Laconia is 2.2%. In February of this year is 2.7. March 2022, we were 2.6, so I mean, that is still extraordinarily low. And I just counted up the months. This is the first time in 24 months This is the lowest inflation rate in 24 months, at 4.9. We'd have to go all the way back to 2021 in April, where it was at 4.2. You know, that's a long stretch of CPU going.
There's a trend there.
Yeah, there's a significant trend, and now we've seemed to have taken a step back. And anyway, it's the lowest it's been, so
Yeah.
I think in some respects, those are good indications.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Moving along to agenda item 21, which is our new business. Item number 21A, Resolution 2023-13, relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $30,683.28 from the Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant Program for the purchase of body armor. The city has applied to the New Hampshire Department of Safety for grant funding in the aforementioned amount to purchase body armor through the Homeland Security Search and Rescue Equipment Grant Program. These grant funds will provide for the acquisition of 10 sets of body armor ballistic plate with carriers. Ownership of the body armor shall remain vested in the Laconia Police Department. Laconia Police Department will dedicate the body armor for the exclusive use of the Belknap Regional Special Operations Group. Members of that group will transport the equipment to call-outs, activations, trainings as appropriate. Maintenance of the equipment will be the joint responsibility of the police department and the BSROG. The BSROG and PD will monitor the condition of the body armor and schedule periodic maintenance as appropriate. The BSROG will pay for the cost of maintenance of the equipment or reimburse the Laconia Police Department upon request. The entire cost of this equipment is covered by the Homeland Security Grant, and there is no local match required. Detective Peter Horan, Laconia Police Department, recommends the council should schedule a public hearing in relation to the acceptance of this grant award. You would agree?
So moved.
Okay.
Trying to move along.
I know, we've got three motions, and I'm, anyway, looking for a series of three motions. A move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-13 in its entirety, to read by title only, so made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Second, I'm looking for a motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2023-13 relative to acceptance of an award in the amount of $30,683.28 from the Homeland Security Search and Rescue Equipment Grant Program for the purchase of the body armor. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And finally, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on June 12th, 2023, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Thank you.
Item number 21B, request from Laconia Water Department for reallocation of funds from the Lakeport Water Project to the Clearwell Pump Number 2 project. In the fall of 2020, the Laconia Water Department received a $1.8 million loan from Northway Bank to fund its Lakeport Water Project. This physical project has now been completed, and all pay applications have been fulfilled 100% of the water portion. That may need a little clarification there. I don't understand how that's worded. After making a $400,000 principal reduction payment, there is still $68,927.67 left from this loan. Okay. At the water treatment plant, Clearwell Pump Number 2 is failing, needs to be replaced. The water department has a pump and motor on order. This project is estimated to cost approximately $130,000. Water Department would like to reallocate the remaining funds from the Lakeport Water Project to its Clearwell Pump Number 2 project. Because this Clearwell pump is not part of the Lakeport project, according to RSA 33:3 hyphen small a, once the project is complete, the remaining funds can be reallocated by a 2/3 vote of the city council. Anything, would you like to add anything to that, Councilor Susie, just as the liaison? No?
I want to say thank you to Ben, because it was his guidance that helped us make this $400,000 payment back early on the loan, so we don't have as big a bond out there to begin with.
Okay.
I can speak to that if you want to, as far as the,
Come on up, if you like.
just because you had mentioned the portion.
Yes.
So we had a $1.8 million bond to
Can
do.
you introduce yourself for the
Oh,
public?
sorry. Ben Crawford, Superintendent, Laconia Water. Sorry. So we had the $1.8 million bond to water work from the tanks, basically down to Prospect and Clinton Street, down to the city of Laconia. We came in under budget. We made the $400,000 principal payment. We'd left a little bit of money in there, and we now have 68,000 and change that we'd like to move to another project we have that came up unexpectedly. And we've cleared everything on that project. Just today, we recorded the easement down at the Registry of Deeds for everything on that pipe, so we are 100% done with that project. So all that money in there is eligible to either go back to a principal payment or go to something else. That bond was, sorry, not a bond, a loan came in at 2.55%. So we're looking to just take that money, move it to somewhere else, pay that off, so we're not taking it out of our savings, keep that $68,000 back in our savings account.
And I take it this is acceptable to Northway Bank?
It is.
Yeah.
100%. They did it as a loan, not a bond, so it wasn't for that one specific project. They gave us, it was that day, dropped in our bank $1.8 million. And we've moved from there. When I say the water project, the water portion, there's still the sewer and public works portion that was separate. They were never intertwined, so that's why I mentioned that in there, was that it was just for water.
Okay, thanks.
This is clear.
Any questions, Ben? Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-14 as presented, to authorize reallocation of funds from the Lakeport Water Project to the Clearwell Pump Number 2 project. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Opposed? That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Item number 21C, sale of lot number 17 in the Lakes Business Park. The Lakes Business Park Commission unanimously approved the sale of lot number 17 in Lakes Business Park at its meeting on May 15, 2023, conditioned upon approval from the Laconia City Council and future use plans being in compliance with all Lake Business Park covenants. The offer for lot number 17 was received from Kevin Morissette in the amount of $55,000. Current plans for the lot are to improve the land. Lot number 17 is located at 288 Hounslow Avenue and consists of 2.37 acres. The purchase and sale agreement is attached.
We have no idea what they're gonna do with it.
Well, they're looking to improve the land, but how so? No, Counselor Lippman?
The project will be in compliance in terms of the covenants, in terms of what has to be built there.
Right.
The interest rate environment being what it is, he's, the purchaser in this instance is going to be, he's got a project across the street. He's gonna be using, fill from that project to make that land, buildable, if you will. And he intends to build a project at some point here that would, fall within the covenants.
Thank you.
So right now, looking for a motion to move to approve the vote of the Lakes Business Park Commission for the sale of lot number 17 in the Lakes Business Park in the amount of $55,000, and to authorize the city manager to sign the required documents in connection with the sale. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, just as a follow-up comment, I think the manager can concur with this. This was the last lot to be sold in the park.
Correct. Yep.
And it needed a fair amount of site work, didn't it, on this one?
That's, fortunately, the purchaser's in a unique position to be able to make that, because there's a large investment to improve the site to make it buildable.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to item number 21D. Thank you, Counselor Lippman. This is the 2023 first half sewer warrant. Per chapter 189-50, capital C, collection of flat rate sewer accounts are collected by the tax collector. This will have an impact on the city. We're looking to collect $214,686.
The green folder.
Oh. Oh, wow. Thank you.
It's close.
City's looking to collect $214,437.86 on the 2023 first half sewer warrant. Right now, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the 2023 first half sewer warrant. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. I will pass this around for signatures. Start that way if you like. 21E on our agenda, which is the first reading of Resolution 2023-15 relative to making itemized appropriation for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and terminating June 30th, 2024. The proposed fiscal year budget was presented to the City Council on April 24th, 2023. Per Section 5:04 of the City Charter, a public hearing must be held prior to the adoption of the budget by the council to allow for public input and discussion. This is the first reading of the budget and resolution. Scheduling of the budget public hearing with the second reading will follow. The proposed budget includes estimated revenues and expenditures for the general fund, motorcycle week fund, ambulance, EMS fund, sanitary sewer fund, water works fund, internal service fund, downtown TIF district, Lakeport TIF district, and Weirs TIF district, as well as anticipated grants for fiscal year '24. City manager recommends that the city council accept this budget as presented. We're looking for a series, looking for a series of 3 motions here. The first is to waive a reading of this resolution in it and to read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion on that matter? Seeing none, all those in favor? Whoops, you did, gotcha.
Sorry. So just for clarification for the public, the fact that we're adopting this doesn't preclude the public hearing and future council action on these items?
Yes, but you're absolutely right, Counselor Littman.
Just want to
Done.
make sure, this isn't a done deal just because we're taking this action. I just want to, yeah.
Yes, just to, if I may reiterate, this is the first reading of the budget and resolution. Scheduling of the budget public hearing with the second reading will follow.
Yeah, so
Yes,
we encourage the public to come in.
yes, we do.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion's on the table. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, we're looking to move a first reading of Resolution 2023-15 relative to making itemized appropriations for city funds for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and terminating June 30th, 2024. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, on this agenda item, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on June 12th, 2023, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to adoption. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
I'm never in favor of adopting too early until we know what the state legislature is gonna do with the budget, and I understand we may wanna, have a hearing. I'm not sure whether we'd be better served and the public would be better served to, and, move it out one more, meeting, so that we might not have a perfect indication, but we'll have a better indication as to what the budget might look like and what additional revenues or that might be appropriated to schools or to the city that we might be dealing with.
Still seems relatively fluid at the state level, doesn't it?
Yes, it
in some
does.
aspects, yeah.
Okay with me.
Yeah, we just had some indications the other day of a couple state things that we were following but weren't really too close because we thought it was done. As we all know, at the state, they're not done. So they just popped up, so.
I think Councilor Littman has mentioned in past years, we have until maybe the end of July to pass the
July
budget. So
20.
sometimes we stretch it out just a little bit to make sure that, one, we can anticipate a budget is passed and signed into law, and also give us a better estimate of what we've got for revenues coming in and allocated to municipalities.
So would be
So we move the public
26th.
hearing out to the council meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could,
and that still gives us 2 more meetings to
Yeah.
adopt it.
I think that's always a wise practice that we've followed here in the city.
Okay.
Let's work on, how about a date then?
That would be
So-
June 26th.
26th.
So, we're going to amend that. We're still on the motion stage of this, right? We haven't had a first and a second.
We
have
need a vote to amend.
I think that's where, that's where we are?
I'll second the amendment.
Yep,
So
okay.
it's a friendly amendment. So we're moving that to June 24th, did you say?
6th.
Sorry. June 26th. Okay, so the motion will read, Katie, and for the public, we're looking to move to schedule a public hearing on June 26th, 2023, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to adoption. Okay? So made by Counselor Lippman, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion? We'll call the question. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 4 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. I think Counselor Cheney would be okay with that.
Sorry, gentlemen.
Congratulations on your new committee, Counselor Cheney.
I resign.
Okay, agenda item 22A, ordinance 2023-205-2, naming rights and procedures for city-owned property.
Did we take up 21F?
21
I
F.
always skip.
Oh, okay, okay, so we'll do 22.
You're right.
Oops.
Let me see what I got here. 21D, 21E, 21,
Yeah.
21F. Oh, that one. 21F is the city manager evaluation, under new business. I will speak to this to the extent that,
Table.
we, after our last meeting, earlier, our first meeting of the month, and in consultation with city council, I shared feedback from councilors with the city manager as far as our satisfaction with his first 6 months on the job. And though I did not specifically connect comments to individual councilors, I gave him the general feedback with specific comments about his performance, which I think we can all have agreed. We've built a little consensus that there are some areas of opportunity and seasoning that will, we feel quite confident that he'll gain over the next 6 months and longer, hopefully. But overall, we are generally very pleased with his performance at this job, and I would recommend that there's a clause in the contract concerning compensation, and certainly anticipate that we'll fulfill the city's obligations as far as compensation is concerned for the city manager. I don't think we necessarily have to have a motion for that, but just looking for consensus around the table.
It's
and if
fine.
there's an opportunity for anyone who wants to share feedback with
Yep.
the city manager.
Happy that you're here.
Thank you.
Very happy
too.
that you're here. Yes, absolutely.
I am too, and thank you all for your work with me and getting me through the first 6 months as well.
We're a remarkably patient group.
Yeah, right.
I'm kidding.
We didn't speak for Bruce.
And not demanding by any means.
It really is great to have you here, so thank you very much, Kirk. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Item number 22A, which is ordinance 2023-205-2, naming rights and procedures for city-owned property. Kirk, would you lead us through this just a little bit?
Absolutely. So, as was brought to our attention, that the city does not have a formalized policy for naming of buildings and other type of property that city owns. Councilor Felch asked if we could look at this and try to build up something. It went to the Government Operations Ordinances Subcommittee on a couple of occasions. We were able to formulate an ordinance based on best practices that we found in some other communities, put this together, and it's what you have presented in front of you tonight. It has gone through that committee and first reading, and now it's looking to be approved. I think the highlight of it is the these all do come back to this board, this council for approval. We do recommend opinions of the Heritage Commission, the Historic District Commission, Parks and Rec Commission, School Department, you know, so we want to get input from the other groups before you guys take a vote, but that it goes to you guys for the final say. The one change from last week to this week is that we did add in under 2052, the naming rights of city-owned property. We talked about having the Historic District, the SAU, and the Parks Department opinions. We've added in non-binding in that. So their opinion is that to you, it's a suggestion. It does not say that under the Parks and Rec one, but it will be added in the final one, so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that out loud tonight. We did add in, the request will go to the Land and Building Committee, but it's gonna be in no more than 60 days, so that was added in. And then the last paragraph discusses how we can change buildings that are already named. One thing that was added in at the last minute that you'll see, well, it's in your packet, is just making sure that any changes we make to any of the other property that's already named will follow under these same processes. So it just doesn't change anything. So that's what's before you tonight. If this gets approved, I do know that there are already 2 projects that you'll be seeing from the Parks Department very shortly.
Before we proceed on the motions, is there any questions or comments any counselors have for this matter? Are we prepared to go forward with the motions, or would the council like more time to consider this and read through this and take it up next meeting? What would you like?
I'm ready to go forward.
Ready to go? Yeah. Okay. So right now, we have a series of 3 motions. Right now, the first one is to move to waive a reading of ordinance 2023-205-2 relative to naming rights and procedures for city-owned property and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, looking to move a second reading of ordinance 2023-205-2 relative to naming rights and procedures for city-owned property. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, on this agenda item, looking to move to approve ordinance 2023-205-2 relative to naming rights and procedures for city-owned property as presented. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Just a brief note here. I would like to go into a very brief non-public session at the end of this, and we will not be taking up any additional public business except to adjourn the city council meeting when we return from non-public.
Need to give what the reason?
I'm going to, as soon as we finish this, I'll read it. Just wanted to put you on notice, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Item number 22B, discontinuance of Paper Street, Jefferson Street. The town of Guilford accepted Jefferson Street, as we discussed, I think it was at the last meeting, correct? Yes. Prior to the creation of Laconia, the section of Jefferson Street shown in the blue box, attached document, although accepted by the town of Guilford, was never constructed. A request has been received from Paugus Properties LLC that the city of Laconia discontinue this section of Jefferson Street. The May 8th, 2023 meeting, the city council voted to table this item. If the city council is interested in supporting Paugus Properties' request, city staff will begin the process necessary to discontinue the road under RSA 231:43. This process includes researching the form of street acceptance used by the town of Guilford and a public hearing with notification of the abutters a minimum of 14 days before the public hearing. All actions will be coordinated with the city attorney to ensure proper procedures are being followed. Right now, in order for us to address this, we must first take it off the table. Is there a motion to take it off the table? So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Susie. All those in favor of taking it off, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative. The motion is off, the item is off the table. Next, we're looking to move to direct city staff to begin the process necessary to discontinue this road under RSA 231:43 and to schedule a public hearing during the regular city council meeting on July 24th, 2023, to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Counselor Cheney.
Oh, I'm sorry, no,
Trigger finger, it's your trigger finger. Would you like to discuss this?
Yeah, I'll just make note that I met with Wes Anderson, and we talked this over. There was questions about some stranded land that might be there, but there is 2 other paper roads that would lead to those properties that they'd be able to use, so I'm all for it.
Any other comments on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please indicate by raising your hands. It's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Thank you. The final item on our unfinished business is 22C, City of Laconia Flag Policy, which I believe everyone has been presented with a copy of the drafted flag policy for discussion
They should've-
purposes.
Yep, they should have. If you don't, I have a copy if you want to look at it.
It is on the table.
It is on the table, though.
So before we have any public discussion, it has to first come off the table. Is there a desire to take it off the table? So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Nobody. No second?
No discussion?
Item remains on the table. Currently, going forward, right now, the city does not have a flag policy. Let's see, I would like to, motion to go into non-public session according to RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, which is consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. Is there a motion? So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative. We're now moving into non-public session at 8:14 PM. Thank you.
Whatever happened to stuff not on the agenda?
That was right out of the gate, Mr. Tardif.